I'm speaking on behalf of a flag that I don't see here, that's a South African flag. So I'm speaking as a South African and hopefully as a South African that's concerned about our country. Where are we in the economy at the moment? We are facing potentially another downgrade. And despite what a particular minister may say that downgrades don't matter, because she said it when we were downgraded to junk status, downgrades do matter. Because about 36% of investment in this country, investment in local currency, is by global investment funds. And if the local currency gets downgraded further, they could be forced to pull their funds out because of the way they are regulated and the way they are overseen. That's serious. That's about 36% of about 1.7 trillion rand. So it matters. And it matters primarily to those sectors of our community that don't have too many choices, and that's the poorest of the poor. I have a choice. I can make a plan if the economy goes down further. But the poorest in our communities don't have choices. They can't make plans. And so I think that where we are now, let's be absolutely clear that we are not in a good state. And we must stop beating about the bush around that. That if we get a further downgrade, we are in serious crisis. Issues of poverty, unemployment, inequality persist, okay, and in certain instances have become structural in many ways, despite all the gains made through democracy. There's a serious trust breakdown between business and government, but across society, in our communities, in our different areas. And we don't seem to be talking to each other about what we should be talking to each other. There's a serious lack of confidence in the country. And if you don't have confidence, and you don't have confidence in the economy, and you don't have confidence in the ability of government to actually govern an economy properly, you don't get investment. And so as a result of that, there's minimal investment, and we below 1% growth. Now, all of that within the context of the serious challenges we have in the fact that the majority of our people live in poverty. Our young children, the majority of young children cannot go to schools that can even be considered to be anywhere near decent and get an education that actually can be considered anywhere near decent. And so the impact on youth and everything we see as a result of that is because we don't have an economy that's growing, and we don't have an economy that's growing because governance has broken down. Our organization here has messed up. We have not governed in a way that has put national interest first on the agenda. There are too many other interests. Corruption has become endemic. And comrades, I'm not going to mince my words here because I think too often we try to sugarcoat these things, and so we don't deal with the problem. Looting is prevalent to the extent, because I've been talking to various stakeholders in the last few days about the social grants issue and how the banking industry can play a role. And the lack of response I get from certain quarters is frightening. So corruption and looting has become endemic to the extent that we don't care what happens to the poor people anymore. So I think we need to be clear about that. There's political uncertainty, serious political uncertainty. Our organization is disunited, and whatever we think of the ANC at this point in time, it's a critical player in the life of this country. And so when the ANC goes through what it is going through, we have a problem in the economy. There's inconsistency. So somebody in cabinet will say something, and the next day somebody else in cabinet will say something totally different. And so not only are we as the people of this country confused, but investors are confused, and they get confused very easily, by the way. So there's young people sitting somewhere in New York in front of a computer, and they hear these different messages, and they press a button that takes millions of dollars out of our country and puts them where they can actually understand the situation better. As a result of all of this, we don't have much investment, and all of this is as a result of poor leadership. And I think we must say, not just in government, not just in the ANC, but across the board. We can't pretend that there's excellent leadership in business. We can't pretend that there's excellent leadership in the union movement. We're fracturing as a society. Firstly, I think we need to move away from the isms. And we need to ask ourselves, how do we need to structure an economy that actually is inclusive and begins to address the issues that we have in this country of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. And we need to do that in a way that begins to understand the global conditions, and that's not a question of ideology, that's just a question of reality. We are a little country in the southern part of the world. We mustn't think that we have the sort of influence on global politics and global economics that we don't. That doesn't mean we must kowtow to everything that happens there, but we need to understand that. Between 2001 and 2008-ish, and I see Comrade President is sitting there, the economy grew by about 5%, and we created 1 million jobs. Now we can all have all sorts of views about things at that time, but the reality is that the economy grew at 5%, we did create jobs, and we can do it again. But we did it then because we understood the environment we were working in. We did it then because we understood the context we were working in, and how we can play in that environment so as to also meet our needs and our imperatives. So first, let's understand the type of economy we need. And it's absolutely clear. We need an economy that goes through fundamental restructuring, not radical economic transformation of the type that's understood, but needs restructuring that enables SMEs to participate, that enables more diversified sectors in parts of our economy, that ensures that we skill our people for a new economy, that ensures that we actually work together and optimize the resources and capacity we have in this country to build that sort of economy. So that's the first discussion we need to have. We need to look at how we rebuild the trust and how we rebuild the confidence. I am part of the CEO initiative, and I serve on the steering committee. With warts and all, for 2 years, we managed to avoid a ratings downgrade. We put together 1.5 billion rand enterprise fund. We started looking at green shoots for investments in certain sectors of the economy. We did joint roadshows to try and draw investment into this economy. And there was some confidence and there was some trust. Business, to an extent, labor and government were working together and putting national interest on the agenda. And because of some things that happened at the end of March, the trust and the confidence was destroyed. Like that, just like that. And we got a downgrade, by the way. So we need to rebuild that. And we need to be able to start speaking to investors, the rating agencies and others, to say that we're going to rebuild that as South Africans. And we're going to rebuild that by taking a stand against the corruption, against the looting, against the lack of governance, against leadership in this country that has put national interest way, way down the agenda.